This is the Catch a Break podcast, the insider's guide to breaking into and navigating the entertainment industry. I'm Julie Harris Oliver. You can find us at catchabreakpodcast.com and all the social media places at Catch a Break Pod, as well as all the podcast places. The presenting sponsor of Season 4 of Catch a Break is Santa Clarita Studios, a full-service independent studio featuring 35 sound stages, an amazing new backlot featuring a New York and LA downtown street with interiors and an alley, fully furnished production office space, and suite-style executive offices along with post-production space. Dedicated to providing an attentive and personally tailored experience for all of their clients, Santa Clarita Studios offers rentals and services to meet any need, any budget. Find them at santaclaritastudios.com. You know, what I watch depends a lot on what kind of mood I'm in. It's similar to how I feel about music. I love all kinds of music, but sometimes I'm in the mood for something like 80s rock, and others maybe reggae or jazz or let's be honest, show tunes. It really just depends. The same goes for what I like to stream. Sometimes I'm in the mood for drama, or my go-to superhero movies like The Batman or Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Some days I'm into home renovation like Fixer Upper, Welcome Home, or Hometown. Then an hour later I may crave some comedy like the HBO original Veep or Curb Your Enthusiasm or Big Bang Theory. And if I'm watching with my family, we love the classics like the Max original Sesame Street and the new Gremlins, Secrets of the Mogwai. Well, Max is my streaming destination with something for every mood I'm in, anytime. Plans start as little as $9.99 a month. Max, the one to watch. Subscription required. Visit max.com. We are continuing our Project Greenlight series where we talk to the cast and crew of Grey Matter and get the real behind the scenes of the behind the scenes. We are dropping these pretty fast, so if you want to start at the beginning, go back and start with episode 401. In this episode, I sat down with production designer Martina Buckley, set decorator Vince Rodriquez, and set dresser Joel Newton. We learn all about Martina's philosophy of method art department. You're going to want to hear this, along with all of their other low-budget indie adventures in the art department. Okay, have a listen. All right, so I am here today with three of the people who worked on Grey Matter. We have Joel Newton, Vince Rodriquez, and Martina Buckley. So as a quick bio, Joel Newton has spent 2/3 of his life on set and played mostly inside the art department, with a start in production and a slight detour over on the grip side. We will hear more about that. Currently content as a set dresser, he loves working for dedicated artists and is blessed to do so quite often. Welcome, Joel.
Hi, thank you for having me. I've been enjoying your podcast since I've learned of it, and thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Okay, well, that is an excellent start. Flattery will get you everywhere.
My sentiments exactly.
Vince Rodriquez is a proud Angelino and theater kid who grew up on the principles of love and inclusivity, which he carries with him on every set he walks into. Now you are talking my jam. Recently promoted set decorator, Vince was recognized for his work by the Art Directors Guild for his work on Rihanna's Savage X Fenty Volume 3 as a set decorator. Welcome, Vince.
Hi, so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Okay, Martina Buckley is an award-winning Irish production designer based in Los Angeles who has worked on 20 films as well as hundreds of commercials and music videos. A true visual storyteller who enjoys promoting method art department, which we are going to hear more about. But let's start with this. Joel, tell me about your very first job in this business and how did you get it?
Well, I go back to, I'm a fourth generation musician. My family had been in the music industry since long before I was born. So when I was a teenager, I ended up going to college early. I went in at 15 and then was a full-time student at 16. I spent my summers down in Oklahoma where my uncles who were studio musicians at a advertising boutique hooked me up with, I can't say the name, but if you're from Oklahoma, you know about a certain Christian cowboy movie series. And that's where I first learned about that chaos. From then on, I moved out to LA when I was 19 and became a PA because I had experience running for Christian cowboys.
That's amazing. How did you get that first PA job?
I came out to LA. There's a 7-Eleven on the corner of Franklin and, maybe it's Vermont. It's up in Los Feliz. I pulled in there. I called my parents to check in and let them know that I got there because these are the days of payphones. And there was would you like to be an extra, make up to $100 a day? So I did extra work for the first 2 or 3 months out here. And funny enough, I was almost kicked off set for smoking some reefer. And then the first AD, whose name will remain nameless, came up to me, asked me if I was holding, told me to bring some tomorrow, and that I was starting as a PA. That was on, I can't tell the movie, then it'll give the idea away. Anyway, that was an early James Franco, Shane West movie where I played a high school student. And then I became a PA for the last week of it. I got to boss around the other extras.
That was an excellent story. Thank you very much. So was that literally as you arrived in LA, you saw this sign?
We had directions on Yahoo Maps from Marshall, Minnesota to Mann's Chinese Theater. And then we drove aimlessly around, pulled into that 7-Eleven. It was my partner, my writing partner I moved out here with. Somebody hit us while I was on the phone in the parking lot, dented the car. He let the guy go. And I came back and I was like, we're going to be extras. Look, I got a phone number. And he was like, somebody just hit our car. And then he didn't even realize how big of a dent it was. But yeah, that's the gist of it. I literally was maybe in town for 2 hours. I was on set the next day with Win Ben Stein's Money as an audience member.
This is amazing. I mean, not everyone's Hollywood story is that direct, but that is incredible. Thank you. All right, Vince, top that. What was your first job and how did you get it?
So my first job in the industry was on the set of Married at First Sight, one of their season reviews. And I had just left my career in sales and insurance. And I was just kind of hanging out and enjoying like fun employment. And I get a call from a buddy and he's like, hey, I need help. Like, hang out with me and make some money. And so I showed up and the production designer on that set, we ended up hitting it off instantly. And we became brothers and he became a mentor to me. His name is Mark Manabat. And we worked together for about 2 years, like job after job after job after job after job. And he's the one who gave me the opportunity to set decorate on Rihanna's Fenty fashion show. Yeah. Did
you know you wanted to go into art department or did you fall in and that just happened to be your jam?
I fell in and quite honestly, I don't think that I would have had the same tenacity and like passion had I helped out in any other department. Like it was absolutely for me and I knew it within, by the time lunch hit,
I love that. Okay, Martina, what was your first job and how did you get it?
Well, I kind of had two experiences. I had one when I was 18, when I was living in France, in Paris. And then I had another experience when I moved out to LA when I was 27. So if the first one's really funny because I was living in Paris and I was working as a nanny straight out of high school. And there was a nuns' convent in Paris where all the Irish girls would go and look for jobs, yeah? So I went there and I was working as a nanny and we'd go and look at the notice board in the nuns' convent, how very Irish. And there was a notice to say that there's a very famous French comedian called Michel Blanc. And Michel Blanc was doing a movie and they were looking for Irish people to be in a bar and drink for free and act Irish. So it was a no-brainer. So I went there and I acted as an Irish person drinking and apparently I did a good job and they paid us. So I worked as an extra in Paris when I was 18 and I had no idea that I would end up in this business.
Amazing. Okay, so then how did you end up moving to LA and then how did you get in the business? Or was that your first move?
I wasn't in LA at first. I moved to LA after being in New York and Connecticut for 7.5 years. I became a nanny in Connecticut and put myself through college. And I ended up with some scholarships. And then I ended up in New York City. And my focus was really in fashion. The film industry was not really anything that I loved film, absolutely loved film as a child. Took some film courses in college. But that door wasn't open to me in New York. So I was in fashion. I worked for the Sierra shirt makers and I did private label for like Ralph Lauren. And, I was a merchandiser in the menswear business, the men's line and then the women's line. And, I thought I was going to have a career in fashion. So I ended up moving cross country. I had a boyfriend who worked on it, was a producer on a show. And we drove cross country. And the first thing I did was they would do reenactments on the show. It was Rescue 911. And so they couldn't always find the garments that the people had the accidents in. So I would actually paint garments to look exactly, or build garments to look like the outfit that the woman was wearing when the barracuda bit her. And that's how I started. Joel is dying laughing. And so what happened from there was I started to get jobs in the costume department, and I worked for a pretty prestigious costume designer, draping, stitching, dealing with actors. But I kept looking at the art department and I kept listening. They were always having conversations about art and music and food. And I kept thinking, they're my people, they're my people. And so I left working with this very prestigious designer, and I moved into the art department, and I worked my way up because I knew how to paint, I knew how to drape, I knew how to build. And so I kind of went from there. I started as a PA in the art department, and I went all over town to all the prop houses, and I introduced myself to everybody, and I worked the floorboards of every prop house so that I could be of value when I got an opportunity.
Smart. I love that. Okay, now for this job, for Gray Matter, had you all worked together before, or was this the first time you were all working together?
Joel was a blessing to us. It was the first time that we had worked with him, but Martina and I had worked a few commercials together. And when I met her, I knew right away that she was tribe, that we were kindred spirits. So yeah, even though it's been a short time, it also feels like an incredible lifetime too.
Now, were you familiar with the Project Greenlight franchise before you took this job, Joel?
I was. I'm not going to say which one, but it was a very early one. I had PA'd on Project Greenlight back in the original iteration.
Oh, you'd worked on it before, like the Shia LaBeouf days?
Second to fourth year, maybe.
So I'm curious, for all of you, when you presented with this opportunity and you're going to be on camera inside of a reality show while making the movie, what on earth made you sign up for that? How did that hit you as an opportunity? Well, Joel, why don't you go first since you did it before?
Honestly, it's kind of a bit of a story on this one. I would have absolutely said no to Project Greenlight in a heartbeat. I didn't really realize that that's what it was until after I'd met Martina. But like I said, I was a blind hire. I missed an email because I came home late from a wrap that had the producer of Project Greenlight and a really good friend of mine who's another designer that said, I don't have anyone I can spare, but maybe Joel can help you. So I called back. I got it the next day and I was like, hey, I'm interested. Whatever Mel wants me to do, I can help you out. And then I talked to our production manager, and our production manager was like, here, it's low budget. It's not very big. We're all shooting at one location. Can you jump on? I said, yeah, I can come do some days as a set dresser. And he said, can you get a few other guys? And then so I rounded up a few other guys. And the big part hit was when they said they had no lead man. And I was just going to day play. That just means I come in maybe once a week for the run of the show and help out on big days. But I just hooked up like 4 of my guys on this show from beginning to end. And I was like, well, no, I don't want you just to pick some random lead man to stick with my friends on a blind hire. So why don't I take this on right now and we'll move it along. And then I believe it was the next day I met Martina and we just clicked. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this show. And then we had sat and talked for like a half an hour, just getting to know each other. And then right at the same time, we both got some calls, and my regular lead man called me and she took like a production call, and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm in Universal. I've just met this designer named Martina Buckley. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, I have done so many things with Martina. I've known her for years. He's like, you're going to have a good time. He's like, is it a feature? I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to lead this feature. And he's like, all right, well, I'll miss you for the next couple months. You're going to have a blast. If she asks to cook for you, under no circumstances do you turn it down. And I was like, okay, cool. So we went back in. And then an hour later, she was like, so they're not going to feed us on this job. So I'm going to show up every day with food. And I was like, Awesome. And that's how it went.
Okay, Vince, how about you? How did you find out it was going to be? Well, actually, Joel, you didn't answer the part about you're going to be on camera doing your job.
Oh yeah. So then I find out that it's Project Greenlight, and we're sitting in Universal. The thing is, Universal Prop House is like the biggest, most used prop house in town. They have their showroom side, and if you even walk in there with like one of their Dixie cups of water, we prepped in $5,000 chairs. We sat on $20,000 sofas, treating $10,000 desks as our work desks because they know Martina and they love her. And we didn't have anywhere else we could do it. And she's like, here's my bag of resources. Bam. After that, I'm in it. She's like, they're going to be coming by and we're going to be getting interviewed in these showroom chairs. And I'm like, oh no, it is Project Greenlight. I was like, but at this point I'd already fallen in love with this lady and was ready to jump into it. I didn't get to meet Vince for a couple of days. Yeah. I mean, it's in my bio. I look for fun people to work with. And when my guy said that Martina was amazing, that's like having, that's a message from Odin right there. So that's it. I was not happy about being on camera, though. I am not a camera person, but we'll get to that part later, and I'll be kind.
Okay. All right, Vince, how about you? How'd you react when you thought, I'm going to be on the show doing my job?
Well, having a background in acting and theater, if you meet me for 10 minutes, you know that A, I love to talk. B, I love to make people smile. So I'm an entertainer, regardless of whatever professional hat I'm wearing. So knowing that and having Martina, a relationship with her for about a year at that point, she was in contact and then she reached out to me and she was like, Vince, you're gonna love it. It's Project Greenlight. And this is such a beautiful opportunity for you to just showcase not only your talent, but who you are as a human being and how you work with people. But we were also like, we had a good laugh because she was like, well, maybe you'll hate it, but I doubt it, and that was great. Like that laugh really kind of set the tone, I think, for what was to be like 2.5 months on this project.
So for you, this was like all the things. This is like the best job in the world. I get to be on camera and do my job and work with Martina. Sign me up.
Absolutely. I mean, yes. But when we were in the thick of things, I don't ever like remember having like being aware of the cameras because it was always feature first. It was always putting out the best possible product, regardless of our environment. But with that being said, during those like lulls or those downtimes or after we were done, I was keenly aware and like, there was maybe an extra smile here or there.
Okay, Martina, do people always talk this way about you in front of you?
No, you don't really. I mean, people are very kind and the crews in Los Angeles are just so beautiful. And I can say that because I've worked all over the world and I just come back from working on a very difficult feature in -2-degree weather in Montana. And the director was phenomenal. The producer is beautiful. The DP was phenomenal. But there was challenges with the crew because there was some egos and there was some inexperience. And it was just a very challenging job. And it was a period film. It was 1870s and it was multiracial. So it was really exciting for me to do that. And to come back to LA and to be able to work on this project and tap Vince immediately, because I really wanted to do a film with Vince, because Vince is just got a tremendous amount of talent and so much potential. And he does bring the actor with him. And that's really important because he can go inside the characters. But also, Vince has a great ability to find phenomenal people, and not just in his department. And then Vince is so incredibly generous. He'll say, hey, Martina, this is an amazing construction coordinator. And Joel is the same way. Joel went through hell, because every single day, Joel was faced with finding people to fill in the gaps. And when you're on a tier 1, he never complained about it. But when you're on a tier 1 film, right? The minute somebody gets a decent job or a better rate, they're out of there like the hammers of hell. And Joel was every single day dealing with that. And that was my biggest concern on this entire project. And the producer, Jeanette, told me, and also Yolanda, they told me, they're like, Martina, we got you. We'll get you a great lead person. And I have heard that so many times. Vince has heard it so many times as well. And they did it. They did it. And I couldn't believe it. But ultimately, we were all there to make a feature film, right? That was first and foremost. And I put it out into the universe that I wanted to do a sci-fi film. And when this bounced back, my reaction was read the script first. So I read the script immediately. It was a great script, but it felt very white. And then I was told it's a multicultural project. So that definitely appealed to me. And then they were like, you know, I was on camera for my interview with them, which was really intense. And I've had a lot of opportunities. I've won awards in the past, and I've never taken advantage of when something goes your way. You know, I've always been kind of like, you know, you didn't really think I was that great before I got the award. I was a ding dong. So when this came up, I felt like, okay, the universe is giving you an opportunity. You're in the stage of your life where you're a crone and you're supposed to teach. This is your Celtic obligation. This is your obligation as a female. You're a crone. And so I said, okay, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to show people what we do, how we do it, and the joy of it. That's really what it was about for me. And then just having the pleasure of working with such a gorgeous group of people. Masha Nova, who's the art director, who's worked with me for 10 years, came in as a PA and came up through the ranks. It was just, I was protected because I had the most magnificent people around me.
Now, I heard that you actually were hired kind of late in the process, and so we're under a tremendous time crunch. And I'm curious how you were able to overcome that, and what did you have to do in order to make it all happen?
It was shocking. You know, when I came in, there had been another designer on the project, and you know, a very lovely person, a young designer coming up in their career. And I'm sure we'll hear the person again. And I wish them the absolute best of luck. And so I had 3 weeks. I got the call on a Thursday from my agent, Ivana Savic, and she gave me the script. I read it. I made a presentation, and I met with them on Friday. And literally, as I was driving back, they decided they wanted to go with me, which I was very grateful for. And I hit the ground running on Monday, and it was a 3-week prep, which is insane. It's just unheard of. And once I had tapped Vince and tapped Masha, and the fact that we were in town, you know, I didn't have to go abroad or go to Montana and like not be able to tap really beautiful people that I've worked with before. And then I knew I could make a deal at uni because I've known Beverly Hadley, who's running property and costume department. And we've got Ray on the ground floor. I knew everybody. And a lot of designers don't necessarily walk the floor of prop houses, but I do. And I love those guys. And it's a gold mine. I'm killing myself here because everybody's going to start doing what I do. But uni is a gold mine. There's so much great stuff there, but you do have to rummage around, and you do have to kind of, it's better. The culture is much better there than it used to be. And so, you know, what I've done is on the cowboy film, I made a deal, and I took a lot of iconic, beautiful Victorian furniture out of uni. And on this one, and it was a lump sum, and they were so gracious with me. And so I had a lump of money on this. I went to Beverly, we negotiated, and we took everything out of uni. And then Vince and I went to work from there. And you know, normally I wouldn't have been so heavy-handed with the set deck, especially with somebody like Vince, to help and make it happen. But because I only had 3 weeks of prep, I knew all of the locations were practical locations, and we were shooting in one complex, and all of the sets were there. So the idea was to create a gold room there, to have the truck go down, bring all the stuff up there, and then we had our own prop house that we took everything from, and the truck wasn't going back and forth to LA because we couldn't take the chance that stuff would show up on time. So what we did was we convoyed out there, and we set up a beautiful prop house and broke it out into sets, which was really great for the confidence of the director as well, and for the show Project Greenlight, because they could actually come and visit our prop house. And we decked it out. We had a tea set up, we had a coffee set up, And, we were living there. Joel was living there more than anybody else. But it was a great spot, and they gave us a great building, and we went from there every day, and we weren't back and forth because we were in Pomona. Some days it would take 4 hours to get there, and we couldn't take the chance. And I saved production a fortune by not running trucks back and forth with Teamsters back and forth to LA every single day. That gave us the chance to really focus on dressing the sets rather than waiting for the truck to come back. And we had tons of stuff, didn't we, Vince? We had tons of stuff. We took 5 tons full of furniture out of uni. We cleared out the joint. I made my own prop house with Vince and Joel, and they were very good to me. And I'm super grateful to Universal because we couldn't have done it without them. Not only that, they gave us permission to bring in Project Greenlight, which is actually HBO Warner Brothers. So Beverly Hadley made it possible for them to actually come onto the lot and shoot us while we were prepping. And I just think that's more exciting than watching previous episodes of Project Greenlight, where everybody was white and it was a bunch of talking heads. There was some arrogance. And this was a gang of multicultural people all working together for the greater good. It was super talented director and spectacular female producers. So from the start, we weren't in it for the money because there wasn't that much money. We were in it for storytelling and making it as good as it could be and supporting our incredible director, Miko. It was a joy. It was an absolute joy.
Okay, that's wonderful. I want to dig into all those things because I know that Jeanette and Yolanda were able to hire a very diverse crew, set a very inclusive culture. At least I've heard that. So I would love to hear what your thoughts were about that, Vince and Joel. But let's start with Vince.
Yeah, absolutely. This by far was my favorite project as far as the crew in its entirety is concerned. There was a really special air of communication and collaboration that you don't really get. And there is definitely some waves being made right now within the industry where inclusivity and collaboration are starting to make more of a presence. But the old guard, it's very, stick to your department, speak when spoken to, that kind of thing, which quite honestly, you can't really create art if you don't feel liberated or you don't feel free to do so. So in regards to gray matter, you'd show up every day and people had smiles on their faces and we're having crosstalk between departments and you could just really feel the energy. It was truly palpable and really, really special. And I don't think that it would have been possible had it not been for the foresight of the producers and the department heads to really make a conscious decision to include this in their crews.
All right, Joel.
Well, when I sat down with Martina and she was explaining to me the Project Greenlight and I started getting a bad taste in my head, one of the first things that she mentioned was this is not the Project Greenlight of old. This is really focusing on putting women and people of color into positions of power to be able to give them art to create, to go out to the world. And to me, that's very important and have been for a long time. So being around a diverse and accepting, inclusive crew is very important to me. So half of my bad taste for the idea of doing Project Greenlight was gone when Martina mentioned that, because it's a move we need in Hollywood.
I mean, it sounds like, having watched every season of Project Greenlight, it feels like this season was kind of a reparative experience. I remember the last season just blew up over this stuff. And so it seems like some years have gone by, some things have changed. It sounds like it was really reparative to the franchise.
Watching the PAs on this, they had a very different experience than I had 20 years ago. I'll leave it at that. This is a very inclusive and warm crew. There was not anybody for me doing a job that I very often have to butt heads with people. I didn't have to butt heads as much, and I could be myself everywhere, and it was cool.
How wonderful. Now I'm curious, we haven't seen what the reality show will come to be yet. So we haven't seen what sort of struggles and challenges and conflicts they'll show in that show. But I'm curious what sort of challenges you found and had to overcome that may or may not end up on the show. Like what were some challenges I know budget and time were one, but was there any particular instance where you're like, oh, this is a thing, we don't know how we're going to make it happen, and then you ended up making it happen? Okay, Martina's showing me the LaCroix can. Go ahead.
The coconut LaCroix absolutely kept us sane. It was it was our rally drink, so to speak. But when things got a little hectic, you felt the entire team pull tighter rather than step back and point a finger. And that I really respect about everybody, from Martina to Masha, all the way down to Joel and all of the wonderful crew that we had. But I think it was another episode of Catch a Break where someone had mentioned you don't fix problems in post, you fix problems in prep. And there is that was absolutely the case with us. Like, I know time is almost like a universal complaint or lack thereof, right? But had it not been for Martina hitting the ground running and coming up with the idea that we were going to, convoy 6 5-tons from floor to ceiling and have a warehouse, a prop house, it would have made everybody's life super difficult. It would have cost a ton of money. So I think the biggest headache was nipped in the bud before we even stepped foot onto location.
And then Joel, Martina talked about the challenge you had of finding day players all the time. Was that the biggest challenge you had, or were there other things that were really challenging?
It wasn't the biggest challenge, but it was a very daily challenge. And I don't know if they'll hear this, but Sip, Angel, Rico, Brian, Kyle, I could not have done it without you guys. The deal really is, for those who don't understand, I work commercially. That is my bread and butter. That is a much higher pay rate, much more less stress with getting paid overtime, not having to go through a big chain of command. We're in, we're out. I work 2 weeks a month, and I make a very happy living off of that with very low stress. When you jump onto a tier one, you're asking your friends and your coworkers to take a pay cut. So the rule of thumb with my guys was, if you got called for a job, you take it. It becomes my problem. You just come back as soon as you can. And I told the PM first thing right up when we started getting into moving on this, that this is how it is. There's going to be I gave him a schedule of everywhere where I needed extra dudes. He had it in advance. We never broke off of that schedule too, except for the fact that someday we might be short. But I was able to I had an extra 5 guys, I think, probably, that came in and filled in for a day or two here, but it was a constant, all right, you got to go. I lose you for 2 days. I lose you for 3 days. I got to bring this in. But my point with the PM, with COVID being in play, he did not give any hassles. If I had a day player, I literally called at 4:00 in the morning to show up at 6. He had a COVID person there. They would isolate him for a half an hour, do a rapid test, and then send him right up to me to go into the grinder. So I was very thankful of Corey. Corey was a very great and understanding PM. He had a lot to go off of. He had a lot on his plate, and he really did a great job.
Amazing. And I bet that core group of people that you work with are pretty loyal, because they could go do a high-paid job and knowing they could come back.
Yeah, my dudes, without them, honestly, there's 2 things that I believe couldn't have happened with this show. This show would not have been the quality that it was if they didn't land Martina, because Martina is just this gigantic bag of resources. And she saved them so much in just knowing. The thing with Martina and Vince is they've done my job. They've done the job below me. They've done the job below that. And they've done the jobs above me. So they know when they say we're going to take 6 5-tons out of Universal over the course of a week, I know we're going to take floor to ceiling. We had all the space we needed. She called it right off the bat. And the other thing that couldn't have worked is if I was not able to keep a steady amount of guys. This movie is shot mostly at nights, and it splits. And then she's not kidding. On some days it took her 4 hours to get all the way into set, and we'd be sitting taking phone calls with her. And she'd be telling us what freeways she changed onto. But if I was not able to keep a good amount of people coming in that was loyal to me, everyone fell in love with Martina on the first day. She wants everyone to engage. That doesn't happen on commercials at all. And features, it's a very rare thing. She wants your opinion. We're a neck down position. We move furniture off a truck onto a set, and then we move it back onto the truck. And we embrace that because it's no thinking. She got everyone's engagement, asked everyone's how they felt about this, if they thought they could add anything else. So just between her resources and then the mix of dudes that I have that I'm so grateful for that are loyal, that's what pulled this off.
Now, Martina, you talk about method art department, which I think is a nod to method acting. Would you explain that?
I would explain it. But before we get to that, I'd also like to just bring up Vince, because Vince got me the best construction coordinator. He got us an amazing art department PA, Sophie, that was so resourceful and so talented. And we also had the pleasure of working with Joel's wife in the prop department, who was excellent. Charity. And I just really want to give Vince a nod for just kind of stepping out of just being the decorator. And also Vince is very collaborative. So Vince actually let me do these things and let me help him. And then Vince took the reins from there. And the other thing is I always feel comfortable having Vince on our crew in the position that Vince is in, because I know Vince is not going to be abusive to people he's working with, and that's a big deal. And then I'm also not generally that comfortable handing the reins to a decorator that's not as evolved, maybe. And Vince is a very evolved person. He genuinely cares. You know, Vince carries with him a spirituality and a genuineness that means so much to me. And he puts that into everything he does. And to have him and Joel at the same time, I just couldn't believe it. Because wherever there were gaps, both of them stepped out of their roles as decorator and lead man and said, hey, Martina, I know this one over here and they're fabulous. Let me go and sort that out for you. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. You know, it's a collaboration. I don't want to do it by myself. And working with these beautiful people, it's different every time, and you learn and you grow. And I'm grateful. If it's hard, I want to do it. I want to grow. I want to learn. I'm going to be 57 this week. And I'm really excited because I work with these people who teach me.
Okay, now the method bit.
So method art department is something I came up with to help people engage, because sometimes, you know, you see somebody putting books on a bookshelf and you say to them, I don't know if the character will have those books. And they don't know what you're talking about. They're just really literally, as Joel says, functioning from the head down. I don't want that. I don't want it. No part of it. I am an immigrant. I don't know everything about American culture, even though I've been here for half of my life. And so what I want to do is I want everybody to emotionally connect to the material, because that means they care. And also, it's not just a job. We're the art department. Somebody said about me once, and I really appreciated it, Martina Buckley putting the art back in art department. I mean, it's humbling, right? Humbling. It was Johnny Day. But that's kind of a big deal to me, you know. And so I want everybody to feel connected to the material and to feel their contribution is massive. So the idea is like a method actor. You watch these incredible actors step into a set, the likes of Lynn Collins, the likes of, oh my God, there's so many amazing, great actors that we've worked with, that we've had the pleasure to work with. They're always in character when they walk onto the set. And so when they do that, I create like smell on the set as well, so that the environment smell like what it should smell like. If it's a bakery, it should smell like a bakery. If it's a strip bar, it should smell like vanilla perfume and beer. And it really helps everybody. And I find that the people in the art department love that as well. They're like, oh my God.
Hold on. You put the scents onto the set? I've never heard of that, and that is brilliant.
Thank you. I do it because many years ago I worked on a film and I had spent 6 months with the director, and all of the actors were improvising and they all had opinions about everything. I would get phone calls. At the time, there were answering machines. I would have famous actors leaving messages on my answering machines at 11 o'clock at night telling me where they thought the door should be on the set, right? So I knew this famous costume designer would say to me, darling, it's Diva Junction, Diva Junction. And so I knew that the first day they were going to walk onto the set, it was like a $1.2 million set, that they were going to be nervous and they felt like they were going to have to say something and that they were going to have criticisms possibly, right? Because it was their first time. And so what I did was, the last thing we did was we sprayed the entire place with vanilla perfume and beer and made all the surfaces sticky. It was a strip bar. And the minute they stepped in, it disarmed them. I saw the expressions on their faces because all of these girls had been working in real strip bars. And they were kind of like, really getting into character. Some very famous actors and some super talented people. And so they just immediately started doing their job. And I was like, oh my God, this works. And that was method art department as well, because that was going inside. Because with this director, I was visiting strip bars and I would smell and I would feel. And so I would even sit in the dressing rooms while strippers were getting dressed. And I learned all the things around them and what they would do, right? So, and it was an honor. It was an absolute honor. All of the things we do, it's an honor to go inside another person's home and have the privilege of seeing their lives and then turning it into another world. It's an honor to do that. So method is really kind of going inside the character, and I expect everybody to do it. I do. And I expect everybody to read the script. And it's not just shoving things in. Nothing we do is random. Nothing. Everything that's in the room is there because it tells you about who the character was before we met them. This is their life. And I call us the current in the river. You put your hand in the water, you can feel us, but you shouldn't see us. If you see us, it's a problem. It means I have a big ego, or I have a favorite color, or that's my taste. And that this is not what it's about. It's about the story. So all of these beautiful people that I have the privilege of working about, the likes of Vince, the likes of Joel, the likes of Masha Nova, Sophie, everybody that worked with us, yeah, they get in there. And they do things for me that I don't even expect. Or they do things for the characters that I don't even expect. And it just sets me on fire. I'm just so happy about the whole thing. And that's what it's about. That's method art department.
That is so beautiful and reminds me why I love talking to artists so much. That was so great. All right, we are running out of time and we have a few more important questions I want to ask you. Vince, what is your favorite memory from this job that you will take with you?
My favorite memory, I mean, there are a lot to choose from, and all of them revolve around just being with our team and laughing or eating beautiful food, as Martina likes to say. And it absolutely was. Those moments where we celebrated uplifting each other or just support. But there was one day, and I don't know why, like, I have an art department car. And for those that are listening out there, that means your car is messy and there's a bunch of random things in there. You may have a couple bolts. You may have a few wigs. Like it's a hodgepodge of random things. But anyway, I had a wig and it was a big curly wig. And I threw it on and I found some glasses that were like 70s, like just big old like disco glasses. And I turned the corner and we had just got over the hump. We finished our last really big set. So I turned the corner and I was like, hey, Martina, I think that we should go back to set. There's something. And she was like, she started to respond before she like realized. She was like, oh my God. And the laugh that we all had collectively was incredible. Yeah, there was that. And then there was a group photo that we took at the very end of the project where you could feel the joy and the triumph that everybody felt. Yeah.
Okay, Joel, tell me your favorite memory that you're going to take away.
I can't decide if it's between the stroganoff or the curry. But
definitely food.
It was definitely food. There was a great day where I realized, so we talked about starting late and not having much prep. Vince, give me the thumbs up, but you were really kind of the last one on the crew to actually get into the game with us because you were on another project, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect with Vince. I'd spent a few days with Martina. We had been running it down. And I had a game plan and a schedule, but we started moving so difficult. We worked off hours with the set, which really meant a few of us started the morning at like anywhere between 6 and 8, and then didn't go home until midnight or 1, and then repeat because we're busting our hump all day and crew doesn't show up until we're 8 or 10 hours into our day. But when I realized that I was able, Vince, we talked about how he came up. So Vince was a 44 set dresser like me. Normally set decorators are wearing white shirts and they do this and this and this. I was able to send Vince with guys and not only be able to have him be the set deck with the art, but he's like, okay, we'll bring the truck back in here and then you guys will start with this, bring this in for me so I'll make room for you to land. And then he would really go off and take on a heavy share of my position to help me out because he knows the job and what it entitles. And we were always just on go. I think I have one picture of a day with just two of my guys and me sitting down, and then you can see the boss table where Vince and Masha and Martina had in the background, and I was like, this is so great. We have like a sit down moment. So, but the day that I realized that Vince was able to do heavy lifting with me like that, it was just such a blessing. It was great. That was probably that or the curry.
That or the curry. Great. Martina, what's your favorite memory from the show?
You know what? There were so many brilliant moments with these people. And I think for me, what really stood out, what was very emotional and beautiful for me, was just the kindness and the fact that they cared so much. It meant so much to me. It just meant the world to me. And the senses of humor and the taste in music and just, it was just beautiful. The whole thing was beautiful. I mean, there was a hot moment with myself and the AD, and but it was not a big deal. We hugged each other and we worked it out. How we got rid of the people from the docu crew is we would actually go, "You're awesome! No, you're awesome! No, you're awesome!" And we would hug each other and love on each other. And then they were like, yeah, boring. But actually, they loved being around us. And we had like a whole tea set up, and that's a big thing for me. I have a tea kit. But when I wasn't there, Angel started making the tea for everybody. And he was lashing out pots of tea. And my tea was going down very fast and it's super expensive. And when I came back, I was like, holy shit, where's my tea? And they said, Angel's been making us tea all day. I said, Angel, you can use those tea leaves 4 or 5 times, my darling. And so, but there just the level of kind of love and connection. And then with the crew, the food for the crew was fantastic. The issue for us was that our schedule was a reverse schedule. So there's beautiful Indian food out in Pomona, Corona. And so every day we had nice food. I wasn't cooking all the time. But the food is a big thing for art department people. And we got to sit down and we got to be together. The community of the art department, that was magical for me. I will have to say it was one of the best experiences I've ever had, in spite of the fact that it was tier 1 and in spite of the fact that it was a challenging project, because the docu crew, who were absolutely lovely, and I kept turning the camera on them, it slows you down. It slows you down. So that was challenging because we were all there to make a movie. We wanted to make the best possible movie we could. And I just love these producers. Corey was a phenomenal UPM and his production manager, Miranda. They were just brilliant, And I just super appreciate that everybody really cared. Costume designer was magical. Actors were beautiful. And it was just a very good experience.
Okay, that's wonderful. I'll be curious to see how much you all show up in the reality show, given that you didn't have that much drama and we're just having a nice time. Joel, what do you want to say?
I'm going to go out there and say this on record. I can't wait to see this. But also, I'm really excited to see Gray Matter as a film because I think it's going to be rad. And I generally don't watch stuff that I work on. I mean,
Okay, well,
it's going to be a fun show, and it's going to be a great film. I don't say that usually about stuff that I worked on, but I really am excited to see what we all brought together on this one.
me too. All right, this brings us to our martini shot, which you all know what that is. It's our last shot of the day. And I'm going to ask each of you, what is your piece of advice for someone who is trying to do what you do in your career? What advice would you have for them? Let's start with Joel.
I have been giving bad advice on the film industry for years, but the best advice I can really tell people when they're in their first couple of years, in your first 5 years of working on set, no matter what department on, you're going to meet a lot of people, and they're going to make a lot of empty promises, and you can't take those promises to heart, but that doesn't mean they're bad people. So know your boundaries and know when you are being disrespected on set, and don't stand for it. But don't let that stop you from putting your love and your heart into it. It's a very nuanced business, and it's a grinder of a business. And a lot of really talented people get shit on really early, and that costs us the art that they could have given us. So just be wary, but be wise about how you network, no matter what department you're in. And if you are going to be in the art department, like all of us, I meant to say this earlier, the art department, you don't pick the art department. The art department picks you. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to be a furniture mover for the rest of my life. At least not in my case. That's it.
And yeah, can we just say across the board, just be nice. Be nice to people. Okay, Vince, let's hear it. Your martini shot.
I absolutely love that this is our martini shot because education and empowerment are so close to my heart and always has been. So the fact that, you've crafted a question for the person who's maybe on the outside or just took their first step in is absolutely beautiful. Thank you. I really had to kind of sit with this one for a minute, and my advice would be to keep close to your heart that joy and excitement that you felt, those goosebumps that you felt when you decided to take the plunge, when you decided that you wanted to be an artist. To remember that and hold on to that, when maybe things don't look so favorable or things are tough. Be tenacious in your pursuit of your art and move with joy and love. And whether that's interacting with your crew, interacting with, your prop house managers, develop your network, celebrate the help that you get, every opportunity that you get. And lastly, just be tenacious. Actually, that's it.
Okay, Martina, you get the martini shot of martini shots.
I just would really advise people to lead with love and to not be ever insecure about their ideas, and not to change, to always have a sparkle. And sometimes things happen. Sometimes you get blamed for things. We don't like to play the blame game because we've been blamed a lot for things, and there's always a scapegoat thing. Everybody gets fired. I've been fired twice. I sat next to Darius Kanji when he was fired from Panic Room. And, sometimes it has nothing to do with you. When I was fired the first time, I had to do with I was making more money than the director because I just won a big award. And so I just want people to understand that you really have to be resilient and you have to be committed and you kind of have to always go back to who you are and not change or not let it make you bitter or angry. And, that's the thing. It is a tough business. It's not necessarily about money, particularly when you're in the art department, but it's incredibly rewarding. And every single time I work, I learn something new. And to me, that's the gift of growing. And I embrace that wholeheartedly.
Thank you. All right. Thank all of you. We have to stop now because my face hurts because I've literally been smiling for an hour. Martina Buckley, Vincent Rodriguez, Joel Newton, thank you so much for being on Catch a Break.
Thank you for having me on this. I look forward to hearing it and more of your other podcasts.
I'm so grateful for the last, hour and change to, just speak about the industry with you and to enjoy Joel and Martina's company. Again, this is definitely the highlight of my week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. This was brilliant. And I want to, just really, I miss Joel and I miss Vince. So it's beautiful to see them. And I look forward to doing another project with them real soon, We're working on some stuff right now. And also SIP and all the other beautiful people that we worked with. I can't wait to repay them for what they did for all of us for this film and for the story. So thank you so much for this opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. And we'll talk to you next time.
This has been Catch a Break, Project Greenlight Edition. I'm Julie Harris Oliver. I'd like to thank our guests, Martina Buckley, Vince Rodriguez, and Joel Newton. And special thanks to Groovy.com, a dynamic platform that connects people to productions worldwide. Please check out our website at catchabreakpodcast.com and follow us on all the social media. Catch a Break is produced in partnership with Catchlight Studios and The Other 50%. Our theme music, Mantra for a Struggling Artist, was composed by Andrew Jocelyn. Thanks for listening, and be sure to go watch Project Greenlight and then come check us out for the behind the scenes of the behind the scenes. Next up, we talk about the locations, stunts, and transportation department with Yvette Ursizian, Dee Bryant, and Sandra Ninam Gallardo. Not only did they do an incredible job, but we also talked about some fascinating side jobs. In the meantime, I hope this helped you to catch a break.